Sanje Chonon, Soje Chonon, Chanche Bande, Dane Jasun, Dagi Chenye, Jibi Sonachi, Drola Penche, Sanje Drobo, Sho Sanje Chodon, Soje. Sanje Choda Soje Chonal Chanche Bane Dane Jasu Dagi Chenye Jibi Sonaji Jola Penje Sanje Drobo Jengambo Yo Om Benza Bome Ha Wan Se Je Sa Je Om Benza Ringe Ha Xie Jia Rin Kuyo Ge Ku Wu Zi Ri Jia Bo Ri Da Xia Lun Ba Bo Lun Zang Bo Li Ni Ba Lan Jie Jia Jia Mi Le da le ba nga yang da nga yang ye yun de da la jong da me nye nye je da rin bo je re wo pa san je xe den je ye ba ma mo ba ye lo do ko lo rin bo che no bo rin bo je Somo Rembo Che, Lombo Rembo Che, Lambo Rembo Che, Tanjo Rembo Che, Mabo Rembo Che, Tenche Boye Bomba, Gemo Ma Chewam, Lema Karam, Medo Ma Doba Ma Nase. Nye ma da wa rinpo che do chole nambo che jan che wose la da mi penche poso tsamba ma zawa mi di da chi che zawa da je ba che pa de la ma tamba yong che ge ye shen ye che Ge ye shen tang ke pe zang bo yang a te ba chen mo song che zang mo ye ye de jing gang bo wa jie wo to jin da so ma je nang ke ta ta nyang be se je ta je ji ni ja so ni zo ni de ngom ban sa je wo jin je lo de So je peux je je me do chamo ri ro le je ye de je Mendra laga ne anda ya meo. Oh yeah.
대한 제종가 버치면 소래. 그러는 거다. 그러니까 민주대야 남다 sembiekes. 민주대야 남다 sembiekes. 심바매나 라메 창주기 라메 창주기서. 민주대야 남다 sembiekes. 심바매나 라메 창주기. 그래. 그러면 주세시라. 민주대야 남다 sembiekes. 심바매나 라메 창주기. 그저 대에 그러면 주시. 런데남지 창주 sembiekes. 지당 인조 들어가죠. 기부 총을 대신에 내 속에 동안에 내반 정도도 와. 던도다 같은 데를 깨나도 안에 배 야구를 삼. 다 들으면 저신 내바자고를 삼살지. 내반 좋아. 좋아. 이 배추 라바 tel에 다 들으면 저신 내바자고 삼살지고도 와. tel에 타로 내바지고도 와. 겨와 멤버들을 봐 타로 내바지 다치도. 땡이 줘라. 기분 되어지나? 내 손에 타로 참 대참게 되면도 사다 밀게나야. 내년에 상황셔. 동해제랑 신체를 텔레 타로 채우도 삼. 코에 미나다 하이나다. 내다 르다 longe 표승서바 간데지나. 텔레 이 몇개요 말 힐라바도 차는 봐. 대표 야부도 삼 단단가서 차는 sempa 야가래 준 강가 셈 시도체도라 어떤데 매버시거라 이번 용화서 코야 레다 녀모 bewang에 상화도 줄친제들라 사다 메다 가바께나 야부데메도선 다 랑라 라와메 바 풍부 놀래제 거바데 텔레 타르고도 소라 라왕원에 듣더라 라왕원에 가르 더그랬으네 소소 기치를 라와에 버시 깨치치 먹고 가시고라 풍부하게 바때나 민들 간데시 때 맞대 소소게 더바고 일루세시나요라 뒤나마도 나라즈나시 렌이 시험도 전에 라와에 버시 텐데치고 말아 저전티 코에 편소라 이미께지사 매게시도 이 멤버 현자 쉽좀 보여라 텐데 매버시고 그래. 인생권도 탈바톤이서 다 코알레 탈고도 삼. 그뒤에나 삼을 대셔지 코르다게시고 그래. 얘네 코알랑 예바리 중세도. 코알라 단데 받으면서 내를 lon줄 봐. 현지 차대어라 쉽좀 봐. 기타츠 버스도 예바리 중세. 라르파 마차바시 수베 노요자. 민중세. 네바세데 계속 매보다 유화 매번 일을 주고야라. 다다된 유화 매번 저거 때문에 야부들부터 삼. 텔레마기어시 저부터 삼사를 거고야라. 뭐들이 어떤 인종도 써야 돼. 기부 총을 대신에 인종 코에 동해를 내반 줘서 코아 가서 내 손을 동해 내 손을 깨야 될 내반 줘서 기부 등이래지나 사다 밀 가와께나 라라라와메 바 풍부 놀래지고네 아부레메도 삼 텔랭에 반 정도 코알랭에 반 정도 사다 밀에서 바 강게네 코 삼마치 버리상 레녀지 상화도 전 바코르고나 티강가 치버리상 민주색도 민주 대야서 민주 대께서도야 남가 로서데 숨겨라 야 타르월 도서데 택바 숨세도 아마서 년도지 택바 란제지 택바 첨부스 자주선배 택바 숨겨라 택바스도 야 조제들에서라 남두다 모터다 대술 택바스라 텔레텐션이 대시도야 도시아치 그 수선 대배에 들려 라메스그레 택바스요라 택바스요 년도지 택바스요라 란제지 택바스 자주선배 택바 숨겨라 어느 정보도 가르쳐 민주계 고알 민주계 안에 심지어 탐제도 된데 개침부 대장식이 오마래 지단 장바다 저어도 신가라서 맨날 배시다요 할때 이나야고 당가란 타르바토바티 소셔셔 여보 개완이 숨르지 깔에 까지 겹고네 겹지 아니 타르바토도 되게도 섬 깔에 겹투서래 삼 근데 땡기죠. 그래 년도 지켜 봤으라. 되게 택바 신부치에 얘기 와래. 샹달라 시게 와래. 이내 고랑의 냠술라한테 소 탱네 타르와토에 소치 랑조 랑데 소치 랑타바토에 소치거라. 달에 년도지 대바시거라. 년도 디르르데 미르르데 삼로 컨더스나 지소 냠도 대안에 람주에치 추nye 추삼 곰지ade 지소 단냠도 미망부 냠도 소안에 교화주에 다지 tindel을 매바 연결해 지식도 스탠드도 년도지 대바세 뭐야 빨리 뛰실랍나 가면서 마음다면서 야
So here, as Jilama Tsongkhapa has said, such renunciation, too, if it is not sustained by pure awakening mind, it will not become a cause of the perfect bliss of unexcelled enlightenment. Therefore, O intelligent ones, generate the excellent awakening mind. Now here, beginning with this attitude of renunciation, we need both renunciation and Buddhahood, and bodhicitta, if we would like to get to Buddhahood. But beginning with this idea of renunciation, to have such an attitude is wishing for freedom, as it says in the prior verse. As you habituate in this way, when not even an instant of admiration arises for the prosperities of cyclic existence, and when the thought of aspiring for liberation arises day and night, at this point true renunciation has arisen. In the context of the being of small scope, we think about they have renunciation, as in wanting to be free from, wanting to get out of, definitely emerge from those lower kinds of realms. So they have turned their minds completely away from that. They renounce that. They don't want that. They're disillusioned or disheartened with those, and thereby are going to strive in the methods to attain a good rebirth. Now, for the being of middling scope, they recognize that taking rebirth, taking up aggregates uncontrollably due to the force of karma and the afflictions, this is all in the nature of suffering. So whether one is born as a human or as a god, whatever kind of beautiful environment or abode and possessions, excellent things one might have, this is something that is not good. We don't actually want this. And so most of the time, us as ordinary beings, we are drawn to those things. We see something that is excellent within samsara, and we want that. But here at the middle scope, renunciation includes this idea that, well, no matter where I am born, if I'm born or I am born and die without the freedom to choose, I am rather taking up aggregates uncontrollably due to the force of karma and the afflictions, as opposed to when we have like a mental body, when you can make that kind of choice, when you have gained the ability to create whatever causes it might be. You're not under the control of karma and the afflictions. And so here, this is the kind of attitude that one needs to give rise to, recognizing that whatever sort of abode, again, whatever kind of body, whatever sort of possessions we might have, we need to see it in this way where we don't feel that kind of clinging or attachment. I mean, normally this is the kind of things that we cling to, and we have a kind of admiration, a sort of liking for. But this should be something that, due to our contemplation of it, is an unchangeable kind of an attitude. We don't have any sort of doubt, but rather at the middling scope, the attitude of renunciation includes not just lower rebirths, but even births as a human or a god. None of it is good. It's all still within samsara. It's all in the nature of suffering. And so at that point, when you have this kind of wish for an aspiration for liberation day and night, this really unchangeable, unwavering sense of renunciation, then there are three paths that one can go on. We call them paths or vehicles, like in the way that you could go by car or go by a plane. They take you to, convey you to your desired destination. So there is the hearer's vehicle, that of the solitary realizer or pratyeka Buddha, and that of the Bodhisattva. And so here, first, having generated renunciation, they don't think about all sentient beings and don't have that kind of limitless compassion. They generally have love and compassion, but are looking to attain a good, this kind of a goal quickly within 2 or 3 lives, thinking, may I be liberated. And while they might hear and explain the Mahayana to others, they pursue that goal of their own liberation alone. And so hearers are those that like to practice within society together with others.
Oh yeah, that is. Nyendo ji tekba sera. Tatne nibatlia range ji tekba sera. Ransa je ki tekba sera range tekba sera. Titele nyingdo chegora. O tarwa tobalia. Mene kebada jitenji kam cha ji tinde je khashe che kuna che tibato ngakale kaptu sere sam. Nibardu tabache ko do samge chora. Til range ji tekba segora. Tito was Mama Yuring Buning Che, Kale kept to it at the Samdachi to Masidua. Until Rangesti, Chitan Soso Shengo at the Shembachiwara, Tona Chevase, Sanje the Koine Shen, Tobenalte, Shembache, Shensa Sona Sosuchibu de Yamliche Sochibu de Kawing Richiwara Kansa. Marazo Milichida Ruda Kashe. 그래서 시대에 시대는 시대 주도 가지고 정도 어떤 데서라 라산제데 근데 전에 타바토바 제고요 삼게들라 디 진짜 들어와다 년들에 저도 주어지세다 네가 된게 택반만 봤으라 년들이 택바다랑 택반이들 택반만 봤으다 택반만 봤을 때 택반 전부데 Simple Tamjay to the Pekeva Mokale Japuna Japsamsa, New do Chimbo. Tell it to the members on that one member Sermato Chidan, member Kemara, Tavatoni Lochoma Bake, Tombani Com Kankachitura, Nevan Chituara. Oh, did tell Rangeji Tebasiora, Rangeji Lam, today I don't Tarvato show, Tito some Goradua. Oh, Tini Teba Chimbo said, oh, Tandatra. Asra. Ninju de namda sembye simba mena se. Lami chanju ji kurme. Tene chanju se majena. Ene yana nyendo ji tekbal shude yana ranje ji tekbal shude de sera. Ninju ge se de kwale tarwa che wora. Tarwe lamde nyendo ji lamle shune joba. Toye yana ranje lamle shune toye chi. Ranje bu zo sombe chi. O ti lamde le do wora. Chidan Ninju de namda sembye simba menase, Chanju sembye simba chikora. O ranchibu tabatum, Koya dunga samlu tanga, Ranchibu jigmado sende pame sumbe nyendreta. Te sumbe kionga chi sama samlu tambe ne kio tambe samlutana. Tamja susu padam mada nyeda nyeduda sende nyendre kandi netende nashi. Majuru anti majuru rendi jure desi yewa che medusam. Kiawa changa mewara. O tiyende, o ta ranchi bu samlu tanga kurme du samje. Sende pame sumbe, simje tamje. Tene dunga de tewa chi che toba chi che kudu sam. Tijiru simje tamje dunga de tewa chewa che do. Rang, simje tamje ki dunga de tewa che tomgenge. Kya kunse yonde kundenge. Sanje je kuwan togu sa. Chanju ku simje ge wara. Chanju ku simje sune, ne tekba chimbe lamri shudu The Keba Kazan Gona, Keba Tamis of the Sedo, Kokazan Goma with some Yomare. The Kale Surgo Yomare, Kazan Nabechi, then a tower and door, a semi sushi kilo in Jusedo. Marazao, Keba Mabutende, Kawaga, Samsa, Tangira, Tangarazulum, Tanda, New to Mazara. Chanju Sambatu SMGK said, but the Kashin Toshin Tonaya, Fidoa, Jugid Matoji. Kale samsa tende sam gyo mare. Ke dende samlu mena keba mambu kale kya de yongu marwa. Yeso ko pe ning thangba na ba. Kashe toshe tona. Te tuju kazu don ma do ko samlu ko de tangyo mare. O tel ba ti semba shukche danra. O dende. Ninjo te namda sembye je semba mena chanju ko semje masimna. Tagbe shenji be chanju sembya ningji chembu ke wara. Simje tamje dunga de trawa ta chaku do sam. Teacher will tanda round never chasam do some. Then never chasam you which so go do Sanji Kova Tovachi some. Kewachunju Chevena Sanji Kova Tovachi, Tarsim Bachigis, Tarsim Bachigis, Tendation Yamsalangiora. Oh, Chanju Sim da. Chanju Sim de Mana. Any Yandu da Range Tewala should do this. Ninjo de Namda Simbi Simba Mana. Lame Chanju Pinzo Teva. Lana meba Sanje Kova Topsiki. Then they can say the prisons of Yangan Sanje Kova to be killed to Mareswara. Ranko Lingapanchun Yanduta Ranja Lam Doshara. Or the Nijuting and Namda Sembia Simba Mena. Lami Chanjuji Pinzo Tiva Jurmejo. Sanje Kovanto Julo Doto Mares and Nijunte. Paranjibu Taroto Etandanduara. Nijuting and Namda Sembia Simba Mena, Chanju Sembia Simba Mena. Semja Tamja Dunga the Tower Church near Chetobachi Wilson. Tanda Rally Noyoma Dengeti Nyamsulane. Till a chance of Chania. Sanjay Kovantobachi, some tender Simbachiku Erisera. Lami Chanju Pinzo Tiva Jurmejo. Lodenam to Chanju Sim Jokes. Lodudan Debanabje. Niju gets Asuna Nevardo. Simja Tamja Dunga the Tower Chow Nabe. Shandu Kurki and Nishibuki. They get to the time, Dunga the Tower Tanda Ranga Chetu and November Rankan could say Yunde Kunde. Sambo Tarsimba, Shan Tarsimba Consumption Jurachavi, some Otin Sem Tikapurada. Take you to do my take you to Echido, Chanju Sem Kiapores, Chanju Sem Magina, Yandu the Ranjagi table should do is Randun Socha, Rantabato Sochera. Chanju Sem Betaba shows on a Shan Tabato Sochera. Tabe Shan Chebasido. Oh, it is Jona.
So that is what we refer to as the Shravaka's vehicle or the hearer's vehicle. Now, those that are Pratyeka Buddhas or solitary realizers, they have a stronger kind of resolve. They have greater mental fortitude wherein they already have heard teachings in the past, so they don't have a need to be in a group. They are able to persevere for longer toward the goal of their own liberation, and they kind of prefer to be in solitude. We see that there are different types of people. Some are more sort of introverted and don't want to interact as much with others. And so here they have the thought, they have this renunciation and the thought, I need to attain liberation, but they're pursuing with this lesser vehicle. And this is in opposition to the Mahayana or the great vehicle because of the kind of great mental fortitude that is involved, the vastness of the aspiration, as opposed to, hearers and solitary realizers will train in love and compassion, but not the level of compassion and love that give rise to bodhicitta. So here, one still needs to, as it says, such renunciation, too, if it is not sustained by pure awakening, it will not become a cause of the perfect bliss of unexcelled enlightenment. So without bodhicitta, if you have renunciation, you're going to strive for your own liberation. You have this great desire to get out of samsara, but due to lacking this concern for others, the kind of attitude that exchanges our self-cherishing attitude for cherishing others, you're just going to pursue your own freedom. But someone who has a bodhicitta, they recognize that that's not sufficient just to gain our own liberation. That's really not right, because when we look at all of those around us, like the kind people in our life, our mothers, our fathers, our friends, our loved ones, we see that this is just this life. But since we have taken beginningless lives before, we really can't point to a single being who hasn't acted toward us with that kind of love and kindness and compassion. And so thereby to leave all of them suffering within this cycle of samsara is really not right. It's not okay. And so therefore, in order to be able to free all sentient beings, I myself will become a Buddha who has eliminated all faults and developed all good qualities. I'm taking both sort of kindness and intelligence or wisdom to their culminations, however long it might take, even if it takes 3 countless eons. That is something that a bodhisattva pursues joyfully. They do without the sense of struggle that we might think. Like we look at that as, oh, 3 countless eons, how could I possibly do that? But when you have bodhicitta, you are able to do this with joy. As Shantideva has said, going from joy to joy, who would not take up like this kind of horse of bodhicitta, in that it isn't, when you have given rise to this attitude, this wanting to help, which is based upon upon a compassion for all sentient beings. And so this is an attitude that exchanges self-cherishing for an attitude that cherishes others. And you recognize that you want to be able to free all sentient beings from your suffering. And in order to do so, though, you need to be able to become a Buddha. Right now, you don't have the sort of ability. But if we lack that kind of attitude, if we lack bodhicitta, if we haven't generated that wish, which again is the wish for unsurpassed or unexcelled enlightenment in order to be able to benefit others, then whatever virtue we do, our renunciation will not become the cause of complete Buddhahood. As it says here, it will not become a cause of the perfect bliss of unexcelled enlightenment. And so here, we need to, rather than let our renunciation remain thinking of our own liberation alone, even if we have not yet developed the pure awakening mind, we should strive to develop this, thinking that I'm trying to learn and develop my own mind, such that, as it says here, intelligent ones generate the excellent awakening mind. We need to definitely think, I'm going to develop my own mind. I'm going to take on this kind of responsibility for liberating all sentient beings from their suffering, freeing all of them by myself, becoming a perfectly enlightened Buddha, one who has taken goodness, kindness to its culmination, as well as wisdom, and thereby removed all faults and developed all good qualities. So here, as this verse reads, such renunciation too, if it is not sustained by pure awakening mind, it will not become a cause of the perfect bliss of unexcelled enlightenment. Therefore, O intelligent ones, generate the excellent awakening mind. In whatever capacity we have, we should strive to develop that sort of attitude of bodhicitta, such that our renunciation will lead us not toward a kind of lesser liberation just for ourselves, but really this state of Buddhahood, which involves engaging in this attitude in which you cherish others more than yourself, and thereby have a wish to liberate them all from their sufferings.
Niji Chenbu Tang, Tongi Tobe Shirab Tang, Tesu Sangmalya, Zoche Sora, Zoche Chanju Simda, Chema Mahimbas Niora, Chema Mahimbas the Penganga Shubi Chang Pe, Simje Tamde to Sanje Koan, Neba Toba so long, Anga Shubi Pe, Roa Game Westler, Chema Mahimbasira. Tangarazo Dale Chanju Simda, Niji Chenbu to Chema Mahimba Yomara. 신의 장교라 대냠래 제거라 심제 탐제 동네에 자와 다가차냐 배차 니지 전부 쩌마 많이 봐요라 나가 수그게 되려 심제 통하다 봐서물 땅하다 남변에 롱랑게 제온 거랑 알아서 공동하게 차도다 지텐데 계고는 남사치 계죠 남사가게 제온 거라 게 탐식게 제고만 와 디나시 동네에 전화 심제 강이나 통나 그 통zam이네 동안에 tren도 일로 쩌마 많이 받게 온 거라 나가 수기게 온 거들 쩌마만 다단한 아주 봐서오라 심지어 탐제 동안에 제가 제통고에서 제고 요섬 우주 접제 소스발로 쥐어라 들려 냠레스요라 냠레 로 쩌마 많이 받을 자주 니지 전부 쩌마 많이 받으셔라 심지어 탐제 동안에 제가 다가 자냐베 로 쩌마 많이 방anga 수기게 해서 배저 제목가 고랑강기 티초를 삼을 따다 강기게 온 거죠라 티청이 상하더라 티 냠레 제오랑 아주 단데 남사께 요마라 티 냠스데 티 드라보치 단데 소소게 스웨네야 쪼제 스웨네 쮸마 마임바데 요마르 야소고야라 오 심제 탐제 파다마다 녜다 녜도 마주바 요마르 삼루타 마셰마도 삼마까지 첨부레 삼자 삼마동에데 자와체구라 삼자 나라기 심제 탐제 동에데 자와체토바치 지기야 삼자 야로 쮸고라 lo che tabare se com de paruchile nganga shugi jiwa de ngora choma mai ba se de ngora tanda ngara zule ni ji chembu choma mai ba yo mare changju sum choma mai ba yo mare ro tongba ni ngusum de to choma mai ba de yo mare tanda kombate yane yando tin drabo chi lendo chingere jira pachote lendo chingere o konzu tende samda tangya tise nae tende chigin gae tende chigin samda sam ni jor chene paru che nganga shugu chinge chagra tele nyamle che sa chaju sambi nyamle che ni ji chembe nyamle che ro o tende genjo ge nyamle che segara o te sona
So, therefore, we need to generate this awakening mind, this attitude of bodhicitta. We need to generate renunciation and this wisdom realizing emptiness. But here we need to distinguish between that which is effortful, like takes a conscious effort or is kind of contrived or fabricated, versus that which is totally uncontrived, unfabricated, where we have habituated our mind to that such that it arises naturally without our having to make any kind of effort. So here there gets to a point where we have bodhicitta such that it's uncontrived. It arises naturally. We see a sentient being and we think, oh, may they be freed from suffering. In the way that, like right now, as ordinary beings, when we look at other sentient beings, we don't have to think about it. We get angry. These things arise naturally. We don't have to make any kind of an effort. But in order for us to develop our bodhicitta, our wisdom realizing emptiness, or our renunciation to the point where it is uncontrived, where it doesn't take any effort for it to arise, we have to practice this by actually conjuring that up, by fabricating it, in like calling it up into mind. And when we do that more and more, we create that habit where this is the same word for meditating on it, where we then get to a point where it is fully authentic, where it is uncontrived and arises naturally. So here we need to make an effort to really conjure up a sense of compassion, recognizing that all sentient beings have acted in the way that those who have been very kind and loving to us in this life have acted. We need to really think about that and look at them in a way where we think, oh, may they be freed from their sufferings, and develop this kind of wish, may I become a Buddha in order to fully liberate all of these sentient beings. But we have to do this in a way that is contrived in order to eventually be able to generate that uncontrived sense of bodhicitta, this uncontrived sense of renunciation, and recognizing emptiness and so forth. This is something that we have to do through practice, through contriving it or calling it up into mind. And that is how eventually it will become natural, in the way that right now, like our afflictions are natural. We don't have to make an effort for them to come up.
o te kar sura tanda ngarajo te komye yo mare samse te yo mara ti nyamle chi yo ra te drabo tanda na chang cha chan chi ta le ga ga te ro lo chong ra te che le je re chang gu na ko ju ya bo shu chang to ne ke ge de lo na shi rang gu tam bu che to mara ti len de che to ku ju ra chep che ne paru je ya ra che ne ko ra na shi che to ra 당내 시시했던 게 있잖아. 그런데 따주 아니 다들 여기도 왔다 양기도 왔다 아니 버루실 집을 지자 연구하라. 어땠나시? 단대 좀 많이 봐도 유튜브만 대다 넘버 나와대. 냠솔래 봐. 뒤삼주나 시소소 단대 전에 야딱 버리 삼다 딱 버리 삼잖아. 이제 누가 쳐르셔 버루실 단대도 와라. 자틀 냠레시에서 곰세 공고레스 de tire 공고레스 남사 자주 semke ni ji chen bu chema mai ba che tinde yong mara o te ya cha ya ta da kale kyam ni ya cha ko ra kale gya be ne te ko 연대디 네버도 토야 요래서거라 가르선 그 습비 연대르와 습비 연대들 교신다 거래 인지 신부께 교신다 가르 거래서 신다 매사요 말 신다 개요 말 쿠란 라부지 삼르다 네 야르 티레 랑게 링댕아마 콤발레 테니시도 간지 리팅아마 사벨레네 표하지 저알라 솔로테다 콤버지나 칼레네세 줘라 니지 첨부도 장게 있는 가지고 공도이나 라술 내가 말해서라 단단한 시제 야게 도야 매가시 콘주 도르간다 도야 말해서 라술 내가 말해서라 야르 도레셔라 그래서 니지 첨부다 잡아다 세트도 강가 랑게 림뱅아마 코란 라부지 삼르다 아니 야르 도야 뭐네티레도 와라 김마도 그 탑시 샌다케 요 말해 그 체제도 내가 말한 그래서 마kum자 지고라 공부에는 야르 도야 다 쳐서 그제 이나 그 야르 도야라 박사들 자 semdi 연대생게데 림뱅아마 공부할 때는 네 콘도 피그래 체제제 데마도 계란 데마도 루제도 저에는 되게 말아 루제 장장장장네 공부 깨고지 좀 도그네 때를 나가지 돼요 말 체제래 네버래 다 코라 속불 빼 빠베 티보도 좀 도르마도 킬로미터 가셔서 근데 좀 도야지 자요 말아 semdi 연대데 되는 말이셔래 그제 공부에 나고 체요 말아 탐에도 배그래 탈신지 봐도 앞에 이거라 디카레스 규들라 코라 양내야도 된 라부지 콤에 팀마도 주신다 개고 말아 그제 수수 디삼로 땅에 야르 다 쳐사라 자 간지 리딩가 마이시라 사벨레네 표하셔서 르다와 잠바 저 대화다 테나 섭심지 탐지 대화다 테고데 테버 규지 삼삼로 땅다 니퍼도 생각하게 고야 콘도 페도 됐어 저알라 솔로테 콤버준다 칼란데 가지고 콤게요 말마다 콤나 세제도 내가 말이야 야펠 도야래 너버 처 도야라 박사 사르산 도야라 어디가 주 삼당고라 야 배에 요다 소소 마치 마도 야르 도야 요바 박사 사르산 도야 요바테 심게 연내래 간 전들 어디 손교냐
Hiện tại chúng ta
So therefore, we shouldn't think like, well, now I can't do this. I can't meditate on totally uncontrived, unfabricated bodhicitta. Rather, we should think like, I need to make an attempt. When we are first learning something, we can't do it perfectly. We do a likeness of what we have seen, what we are trying to emulate or follow the example of another. Like when a teacher teaches something, first we're imitating it, right? And we're not doing it exactly correctly, but we get to a point where we do have that thing down. We know it, we've learned it. Like if we're learning a song, at first we might think like, oh, this is never going to sound like that, or I'm never going to be able to do like that. But if we complete that practice, we do we do it again and again, a similar aspect, and do it all the time, we will definitely develop that skill. And so this kind of habituation, it isn't like we can immediately have that uncontrived bodhicitta. Like we don't just sit down and meditate and it's totally natural and uncontrived, but we can be certain that based upon the nature of mind being such that we can habituate it to things, we can increase it actually limitlessly by creating sort of seeds of a similar type and aspect in mind. Whatever sort of thought you have, that is how you increase that habituation. That is how you are going to develop that kind of natural attitude, natural thought of something. It can't be done through any other means by taking a medicine or something else, but rather it is only through the process of conjuring up that thought, having that sort of likeness and exposure to that again and again, it will improve, it will develop. And so here we shouldn't think that these things will remain effortful all of the time, but rather we should recognize that this is the nature of our mind. mind that it will increase the more that we practice, the more that we pull up to mind that kind of a thought. It will increase more and more. It will improve. And so this is different than, say, physical training. If we are trying to develop something like being able to jump really far, it's the case that there's a limit to that. I can try and try and try, but I'm not going to be able to jump a kilometer. There's a limit to those kinds of physical trainings. But when it comes to the mind, there is no definite limit to that. If we think about something again and again, it will only grow stronger and stronger if we develop those minds of a similar type. So as much as we think, may all sentient beings be free of suffering, may I cause them to be free of suffering, and so forth, that is going to increase. And so other than our not practicing something or getting used to it, meditating on it in that way, it's definite, it is certain that we are able to increase and develop these attitudes such that they do become uncontrived. So we shouldn't sort of undermine ourselves or undercut ourselves thinking, oh, well, that's not something that I can do, but rather by trusting in the nature of mind and its capacity to, through repeated exposure to something, even if it is effortful, that can eventually become effortless.
어, 근데 장주 셈 데이터 저도 모두 또 쓰는 거죠. 장주 셈 들으니 요라. 근데 내가 던지고는 장주 쳐도 셈 기바스. 디선데 밤마다 소소베 같은 치셔도 수이나 호텔 공부하라. 다 지당전에 같은 치셔도 아마치고라. 걔들서 그 마르셰바 선데 밤마에 공부하라. 마르셰바 파르셰바체. 니까지 전부 인다한테 소소 류칭게로 고 류디 담보네 제가 거기에 유튜브에 배짜치부터 쉬우치지냐 그러 했더니 봐 계속 쳐주고는 배셔보시 너브로 쉬우치 삼십야 그러 근데저는 그때 전부에 맞대 소소 거디 전부에 배차네 라지부터 좀 말했대서 타바토 탑시 치고 그래 삼사 괜히 교대만가 되지고는 자주셔도 생기야시오라 거디 전부 삼네 대심제 탐제 집으로 있음 기시표는 원마시면 마도 샌딜 거든 치슈데 임번 파마수이나 티나시면 마주버 심제 요마르 삼제 근데 전에는 심제 탐제 바다말에서 거든 치슈던데 줄에 장을 기시표는 원마시면 그래서 팅팅 수치제 샌디 파마다 집어도 봐 심제 근데 전에는 대시도 사디코바 토바치기 기타르와 토바치 토바치 삼겨라 다시 냠제때 같은 신분이 보게 삼기요 말에 가리 삼기요래서나 라지지데 수수께 치시지부데 통마매반에 게 치시지 마시 용어와 셴야와도 수수께 치시지 용어래 되게 장마도 지금 연대지 좀도 와삼기요래 단다봐도 라게 치시지네 라게 단달 밀 사와지에다 강가 용거라 셴게 시와지 야야는 달지버려 제베네 야고 고티요 말아 라지지데 숙체다치데 아니 셰야 완도야데 셰라 never share some of Gora. Kindo, that in North Share somebody, take your Tommy, no, some Morake, some Tibeshes as a Thunderbolt Tunga, somebody, Suzuki, the Chundu Asa. Yagaraji Chungi, not as a day by Yaga Yogura, Suzuki, in Thunderbolt and Bessucha Yomara. The two young mothers, Chunde Yagachi, Thunderbolt Chayomara. The mom Banatus stand there is some. Tape Norsha, some Lutania Kurat, Thunder Norsha, some Berta. Take the branches in the pet, Kanga Jungu de Reshasam. Shanch in the Yonde Tamjak Jungu de Reshasam. And the Tagwe Shanchi, but the Tatik Shanchi, but the Keshisha Norsha, some jet. And the Shank gets Tagwe Shanchi, but the Yongora. Or teach it to Nako Tanda Shanchi, but the good. So said that the Keshisha did say it and do so sang it and the Dora. So said that some Gomar, so said that Bello Tare. In a monation, so said that Tashi, but the Tugura. Carsoda. The Jorm is something Sumutua. Chanju Sembato rounded to Keshutis, rounded blue Tashara, rounded Le Dashan, Keshish, and rounded Tashi, but the Druids. Or Tissuris. O tendenza ne samlutanda niyo kudwa ti hakune digara kyode menga tenji kone se chik samlutanda jitwa ti ran la kadi chimbe be chane ti kanga chibodesa a chibude to shirba che wambu no samlu chachiru tanga jira ran la penta mata de samlu memba che ran dewa dole tunge medeware shen dewa dole tunge medo nyambare ta tanda bodo sozo keshishu shenda yawando de do Te Kari Chundu Samlutangara, or Tati Samlukora Norne, Tamadibu Samachungsha Samse. This Samlukora Chevjara, Takshan Chesigua. Tata Shan Chevjas, Sosu Shanji, Shandi Ranchi, the Omara, Samlu de Chevjara. Toma Meban the Ranchi, Zimbe Samluti, Sabdilia. Toma Meban the Ranchi, Shan Dorgara. Kids of the letter, Shanchi, the Raya or Doshar, Shankiton, the Ran Lutashara. So Tashan Chase word. Now some Satalia Rachin Zitida, Shaya do Loni the Chevujare. Shankiton that to Raya or Doshara. Oh, this Lamendura, Chanju Sem said, some Lucachim Buchetan Yiddish in the Wa. London and Chanju Sem Jose. Chanju Sem Case on Anis Sanjay Kovan to the Lamla Duyara. Chanju Semajena, Sanjay Kovan to the Lamla Dumare. Nijuki and Yandu the Ranges take one baby along the Shudugara. Oh, this learned.
So here, when it comes to bodhicitta, we can talk about two types, or actually two ways of generating this attitude. So there is the sevenfold cause and effect method, and that of the equalizing and exchanging of self and other. So here, when it comes to the sevenfold cause and effect method, this really begins by thinking about those beings who have shown us the greatest kindness in this life. Usually, our mother is the example that is given. Our mothers are fathers, but it could be anyone who has shown us great kindness. And we think about how it is that they showed us that kindness. I mean, if it is our mother, thinking about how they took care of you, even in the womb, doing everything to protect you and so forth, all the way through your entire life. So all of those kinds of contemplations go toward thinking about the need to repay the kindness of others. So reflecting that all sentient beings, as we have taken rebirth through countless lives, all sentient beings have acted with me toward this kind of kindness. And so for me to just pursue my own liberation alone is really not right. And thereby thinking about that, first recalling that the kindness that they have showed you, and then giving rise to that wish to be able to repay that kindness, viewing them with a sort of affectionate love and then compassion for all, finally giving rise to that kind of superior attitude and bodhicitta, one develops this wish to become a Buddha in order to be able to liberate all of those sentient beings. And the other method that we can talk about is equalizing and exchanging self and other. And so that's not a literal thing, but it's really really taking this attitude of self-cherishing. And since beginningless time, we have had this kind of thought of I and holding ourselves as more important than others. And really nothing good has come for us from having that sort of an attitude. All of the harmful actions that we engage in toward others are a result of this attitude of grasping at an I and the self-cherishing attitude. And all of the sort of efforts that we have made are for the best for ourselves, right? But really, that self-cherishing attitude makes it so that we're bringing about our own ruin, not our own prosperity or good. And so here, recognizing that really this is mistaken. I have been pursuing my own aims in the most mistaken and kind of backward way. Recognizing that all that is good actually comes from an attitude that cherishes others, whereas this self-cherishing, self-centered attitude has only led to my downfall, only led to bad things. And so thereby we give rise to this kind of wish to exchange that. We see the faults of self-cherishing and thereby exchange that self-cherishing attitude for an attitude that is centered on others. And here, this is really the best way to accomplish our own aims, which might seem a little paradoxical. But bodhisattvas, in their exchanging that kind of self-cherishing for cherishing others and pursuing the aims of others, they end up perfecting their own aims. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama often speaks of bodhisattvas as being sort of experts in achieving their own aims, and that comes along the way, right? They are focused on the needs of others. And so whether we generate in this method of the sevenfold cause and effect, which is seen as being a little bit lesser just in the sense that it is centered more on those who have shown us kindness. And then there's the second method of equalizing and exchanging self and other, which is seen as being for those of a little bit sharper faculties, wherein we recognize first that our own desire for happiness and our desire not to suffer is equal to all other sentient beings. And recognizing the faults of this self-centeredness that has driven us, we exchange that kind of thought. Instead of having this thought of, oh, what can I get from me? This self-cherishing attitude that, again, since beginningless time, we have had this thought of I and mine, and thereby cherishing that I, we engage in all kinds of actions that end up bringing our harm. And so seeing the faults, seeing how it is that we only bring our ruin with that, we exchange that for an attitude that pursues the welfare of others. So here, there are two ways of generating, as it says in this last line, and this is the 6th verse of the 3 principles of the path, that therefore, O intelligent ones, generate the excellent awakening mind. There are 2 methods for doing that, and without this, we won't be able to get to Buddhahood.
Koala yang ngenjo ki samlo kenro ko de tonge ji ro shi chen do re sha sam te tonge ji ro shi chen do komne ngenjo ke ba shi yin sam koala ngenjo de atene changju chodo se majina ngende rangela so te wa membe so su chibu taba to e kyola do se ti membe se semje tamje sindi pame so be semje tamje tarwa to be kyola do ha chi wo de stende 에로와 답에 신체에 chanju심 걔네 심지어 탐지가 더더더 사제적 고발 개발도 더 있어. 대체도네 대통지기 쳐 chanju가서래. chanju라서 버텨줄 터가서 삼바체 공변냠리 집이 삼사. 그로 세tam네 세나 chanju심 사제적 고발 더 있어도 대치기 삼그제 단대체는 겨울럽 침부사으라. Oh, they could say them December shows. Oh, they be.
So here, when we set our motivation for listening to the teachings, or really on a regular basis, when we set our motivation, if we are doing so with this kind of attitude that for the sake of not taking birth in the lower realms, I'm going to abandon the 10 non-virtues and engage in virtuous positive actions toward others, such that I can gain a kind of basis upon which not slipping down, but rather having the basis on which to develop further. I'm going to take rebirth after rebirth as a human and a god. And then moving beyond that to the being a middling scope, seeing that all of samsara is in the nature of suffering and really wishing to get out of that entirely. One pursues liberation from that cycle of suffering, taking rebirth due to karma and the afflictions. But then seeing that just that kind of a lesser liberation for myself alone, that of a hearer and a solitary realizer, is really not suitable given the kindness that other sentient beings have shown me, my dependence upon them and so forth. So therefore, I'm definitely going to attain a state of perfect, complete enlightenment in order to be able to lead all of these sentient beings out of their sufferings. And so for that purpose, I'm going to listen to the Dharma, take it up into practice, like here from the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And by generating such a motivation, we create a powerful amount of merit.
Tedar kadan chime base, shindu chube nenamla. Tangara tindri shira. Kewa dan chiwa da chinge solo doya da tindri samlu kage meveche. Tachum banashi, tachum sange. Nyamo pan sane ta koale kewa nembe kuba. Nashi samlu tanche, lulu si tete udusar. Ta nyanga ibe midijin ku sabso shingati, sabso chigu samsandi samlu kuyara. Tindri ke chimuga che, nyanga chiye mengengi. Tachumba na shi che tete yore sarwa, ngaran story. Teta kada chime ba, keka na chi tunga nyome go ba, tachum sasuna, ane keka na chi tunga nyogo marwa. Shindo chebe, keka na chi tunga nyome go ba, tachumba na shi che, ane raga cholam tilene, lolo che nete ba, ngaran story sigara. Chebe ne namlasa. Tambu nidu se che nes. Tā lolo che nangme che te warde, lūr chi le chidā ge, ne segri sarwa, segri sida tā chidā yone chi chūri setandarwa. Chiwa de lūr tu yone, ne nga chi chūri, seba na shi se sede. Chidā ge rāga pūmbu dōr chūri sara. Chidā shinji leguri, tā chiwa leguri setandarwa, lūr tu chiwa leguri se. Chidā ge segri sara, sheshara. Tambu nidu se che ne, nghe son tonga me se nyos ne kyo chimba nghe son le ke tadi che ke ma chura nghe son le me ye nghe son le ke ne tonga ma bu nyos che ne ma tur ndo nya ka yora o tinde me yo che u de se ta de ta ju ba na shi ke ga na shi tonga nyo me go ge kyo chimba nghe son le ke me go ge le chi te wa ne shi ma te che che nghe son le ke chi kyu tu pa ka la da me le ke kyu tu ta de sa go de se ra o te kechembure sosole neva yobde hakora jideje cheba bupa kas de shenda je cheba bu yoshta so molam tab de ro shne cheke yomara cheba bu de kawake na terke verme sosoke yomara na beta wati mara soso che yo samta ora shenda je la ba yo ne ta kera kuchi apu chiro che se kare na silave bado shne soso cheke yomara dagwa chida kayo de chida songe de soabo de karasese de ko karasese de mado ngarazul ngande sogo de semugo sayo mara tede mare segora de soso maomba de yani karchine soso la ko yores tangi tage goyese tangi tage tayese soso to buchono soso to butange war mado shende je to buchinga sonya nesol ke che tange so yo mare sera 근데 소소 야고 좀 마음 받아 다다 야고 여야 돼 또 우야데 소소라고 여랬어 어디 상담을 해라 야 어디 시키나 안 되거든
So here, picking up, I think we might have already done this verse, but in 165, here where it reads, thus, those continually acting as if without old age and death are first killed, and then comes the terrifying downfall into the lower realms. So, here there are maybe those who act as if they are like arhats, as if they have attained this state without death, without sickness, and so forth. But in reality, they have not. So they're sort of denying the reality that they are going to have to face death. And here, where it says, are first killed by the Lord of Death, as in they will cast away our aggregates. We will die. We will have to face that state. And those beings, not having made any preparations for that future, for that eventuality, instead end up going into the lower realms. Then comes the terrifying downfall into the lower realms. So here, if you don't create the kind of causes for a good rebirth, you've made no preparations, then you end up falling down into the abyss of the lower realms, going to places that are worse and worse. So right now, we should really act in ways to stop the causes of that, right? If we we need to recognize what we are capable of doing, what is in our hands. And really, if there was some kind of creator, then we could just make a supplication to them. We could ask them, oh, please send me to XYZ realm in the future. And we wouldn't need to do anything else. But that's not how it is. We have to create the causes ourselves. And so, whereas with someone who believes that some other creator has the power, that they determine everything good and bad for you, rather in Buddhism, you are the one who creates good and bad. As it is said, you are your own master, and you are your own enemy, in the sense that we create good and bad for ourselves. We are the ones who are creating the causes for our future happiness or suffering. No one else is doing that for us. So for those who sort of deny reality and just act as if there is no death or they're not going to face that, they first have to face the misery of dying, and then comes the terrifying fall into the lower realms.
Nyeji chenpe, nyeji chenpe nambe zinda se. Nyeji chenpe kido sante namba kande chi shana ene zingyo da se. Simje de da samje tunghe de travari cha samsa. Tunghe de travari kyori chi samsa namba shagyo da. Simje tunghe namba shana te da travari kyuchi nyandu samlo kogo yo da. Oti shegdwa. Te dari tunghe me tongla se. Tunghe ji so chenpe me dan travari roa, tunghe mambu chi ge ne. Nyawa yida tondula soba tunghe da tezu tongba tela sikidwa. Te dari tunghe ki medan trawa tunghe tezu ni tongba asi, narwa asi rishirwa tongba la asi. Sunam tenle lek tongbe, sunam saane ti teni mede seya ki tiba ki charwa baba na shingi, kiwa tuba le teni sunam kiwe teni tenle teni, nima charwa la soba tende tani mede ba, me tonga de shivar chiba serchi, tende chunga shiva serchi yura. Sunam tenle lek tong be ese, sunam je tenle teni charwa silba de babirwa, tile kigirwa tongba se kiwa se. Rangi tewe sochar gis, o rangi sunam sakbe tewe, ene choge charwa babne se ora. Ene tonghe ki tongbe medan trewe, tonghe tongchi ki mede shivar chiba namshi kyuru su, simje tamje ke nge songe tunghe teta shivar cheba ka namshi gyurus nga shi tunghe chile gyura sho gyuna chi marun gyurchi gyura taagi chagi nyi samsa nyingji chenbu kongye samlu tanda de shegdwa ya odi chilam dikere.
Ở đây nói làm thế nào để chúng
So
ta
the next in 166, it reads, thus may I become someone from whose clouds of merits reign whose clouds of merits reign of a well-born accumulation of happiness that pacifies those tortured by the sufferings of fire. So here, this is demonstrating, showing the mode of apprehension of the aspect of great compassion. So here, the way that this is expressed is kind of how we meditate on compassion, like how wonderful it would be if they were freed from their sufferings. May they be freed from their sufferings. I will free them from their sufferings. Please bless me to be able to. So here, thinking about the kind of, and in the Tibetan, the first line is tortured by the sufferings of fire. So like the lower realms are tortured with various sufferings that is sort of like a burning almost. And we can think about the various ways in which beings are suffering, tormented, or tortured in those lower realms. And we are making this kind of aspiration. Thus, may I become someone from whose clouds of merit rain a well-born accumulation, this rain of a well-born accumulation of happiness that pacifies those tortured by the sufferings of fire. So here we are, through the merits that we have created, imagining them as like a great rain that is able to pacify those sufferings, making that kind of dedication or wish.
남시 미바 미츠 도세도아 남시 세 두라 코에 동엘에 트에 귤 메바세다 장시 다 남시 세 다tun다 다 남시 세 소소세라 나 남시 두 남시 쳬세라 남시 미바 미츠 도세 미바 메스 동반일 시거라 라오에 다게 동바 라 라오에 동행 용하고 야 동행을 써봐 동반이 시에 드셔라 남시 밑반 매출도 동반이 또 매출지 있어라 너네 동반이 또 서는 그 거에 싸워 거란테 봐 빠에 탑시를 요라 그 남시기 제세 밑반 매바 동반이 또 매출지 있어 아니 그게 선남 초사돼서 동반이 또 매실업다 냠도 아니 선남지 초사돼서 초니요라 선남지 초다 시초스 시럽지 찬다야 고네 콘도 따야들 시초스도 상부차 잠바다 닝지 자주 심세라 짐바일라 소바테들라 탑지 차스라 상부차들 탑지 차스도 시럽지 차들라 시지 초사 선남지 초다 시지 초니 상발을 때는 상계고요라 시럽지 고네 콘도 앞에 시럽이야게 동반이 똑발어서 원메다바 똑발어서 란두르겐네 탐제 똑베 시럽데 코네 콘도 앞에네 란두르 타르심베 시럽 타르심부도라 니 침바다 서발어서 와 잠바다 닝실어서 와 자주 섬라서 상부차데 곰발을 때네 네 상계지 구수라서 와 구수 표সম서 와다 내 표সম서 와 어디 상계가 신금라서 와 때저 두베 줄을 두어라 수능제 소되게 산제제 구수다 아니 답이 신금도 좀 주치거라 이 시제 소되게 산제 빵도제 연대니도 주시거라 그 빵에 간거든 시럽지 빵거라 아니 저 빵배 타르와토에다 대상마데 시럽지 도거라 소니들 수능미시 초사되서도 어디스 기절도 남신네 맥바 메수도 ane kuibe sunam tsosade mikba mechude sunam ishigi tsoche roa ni kuibe sunam tsosade sunam di tso chimba ta soba la soba te zore chamba da nyingji chanju samso mikba phungbar yunam la se tongba ni ki mikba mebe tongba ni hama goge meshege samlu menge te zula sgora mikba phungbar yunam la se tongba ni to be shira menge kansa tizula sigara tada marasto tongba ne tambar juruse tinga tu namjina tende jura chege sa tongba ne ma do kansa to koe sawa chuji tongba ne to be shirab ke be chido ne tene kanzo tongba ne te ne tangji ngao nyambe nga rangjin tangji de me so ne nga la chapa ta cho la chapa shen cho la tawa chadang ni ko ne le kagasaviyara o chagdan mene chagdan go le sa yo marti mene ne ko yo marwa o tisur ba kashi mikba mesuto ko be sonam sosa de standa sonam da shi sosa de mikbe phungbar gyu nam la se tongba ye ma to ba tangje ji xiangwa de gyu tongge kasa da chu ji tangje ji xiangwa de gyu tongge rawa de zhuba ji sam 자다 녀다 이도와다 이도메오다 다다 셴다 이 고랑군의 지도와 지쇼지 삼제 Any changdang kia dang zi kia sama ki go ra. O da da shen da yi dong da me wa se de. Chokpa de chi le ma bo chi le pa le pa tak ba sam. Ten de chi le ma do me ba da ha ko ne ta shen ja ta chung ro ra. O de tong ba ni si de nam yu gan zo sam le na ya. Da da ni da yi dong da me wa da nga da shen se ta ra wa de chi. Na nga ra ge ye sam ja ri chi rang wi ne ye sam ja ri chi ra. Rang xin ge ye sam shen da zhe me bo ge. Pung pung a so go da sem da cho wa da su ga ga dom ne ne le pa chi ta ne ne ga si che ne ga do ge ga te ge ga na ge ga ya ku ye se ka ga sha hu ra. Tin de ji ma do me ra. Ho ti ha ko tum na ne pe ka so da. Kong do ga je cha dong le so pa da so su tu gu yong ya ka be ne da. Ya bu chun o shi chong sam ti de ne da ka ga tong ba ni kong ga ra. Ya na ya bu xiu xi kai ya me sa tu na tu bu xiu xi ya ke me sa. Tong ba ni kong ga ra ho ti se che de. Ni go re mi be phung ba ju nam la. Tong ba ni ne tam ba ju so de tong ba ni ma to ke ka sa to so la. Ko ye sa wa. Ro. Ani tang ji da chak tang la so pa wa te su ka ga po ye che to. Tong ba ni kon zo la chi ji ma lo ba te thuk de chi. Nam shi ju de te de ju ro sho sam ke wa da. Yo te chi ju ni de.
So then it says in 167, may I, by respectfully building up the accumulation of merits in the way that lacks focus, and here sometimes that's referred to as non-objectifying in the sense of not holding phenomena to exist in the way that they appear. Then the third line, be able to show emptiness to those who are destitute because of having that kind of objectification, or having focus is one way of translating it. So here one is making this kind of aspiration, and the first line in the Tibetan is the one that's translated here as in the way that lacks focus. So here when it comes to thinking about attaining enlightenment, our compassion, like there is the method side in which we accumulate merit, this kind of goodness, taking goodness, kindness, that method side to its culmination. And then there is the wisdom side. So all of the ways that we increase and develop our wisdom are the accumulation of wisdom. And so here where it says, may I, by respectfully building up the accumulation of merits in the way that lacks focus or objectification, means that here one has both the collection of method that leads to the form bodies of a Buddha, the abodes, the realms of a Buddha, as well as then the accumulation of wisdom in the sense of doing it in such a way as is not objectifying. And so here, this is the cause, the accumulation of wisdom leads to, or encompasses as well, the abandonments and realizations in the mind of a Buddha, leads to the Dharma Kaya. And so here, one is accumulating those two accumulations because that is what leads to Buddhahood. That is what leads us to the state in which we are then able to show emptiness to those who are destitute, who are cycling within samsara because of having that kind of objectification. So here, in order to be able to teach those sentient beings who, due to grasping at an eye, they perceive all phenomena, both the self and all other phenomena, as existing like objectively in and of themselves, autonomously somehow. And due to that thought of like I and then mine, and then there comes a kind of attachment to one's own side, animosity for the others, and all of these other kinds of afflictions that arise out of that, and thereby are under the control of that grasping at an I, under the control of this misperception of phenomena, as if they existed in and of themselves, like in the way that they appear to us as like autonomous in its own right without having to depend upon anything else. So it seems to us as though phenomena have that kind of autonomous existence. They don't rely or depend upon anything else. They're right there. They exist in and of themselves. But when we think about like the person, they are something that is merely designated on the basis of this collection of the 5 aggregates. We can't actually point to anything that is the person within them, but we can still say, oh, I'm here, I'm sick, I'm well, and so forth, I'm eating. And this is something that is able to be dependently designated, but doesn't exist in and of itself. So here, when we meditate on emptiness or kind of learn about emptiness and habituate our minds to that, this is something that allows us to get freed from that kind of grasping. We see something bad and we think that it is all bad in and of itself, not dependent upon anything else, or we see something that that is pleasant and we think that's all good in and of its own right. Here, they don't exist in that way.
Tatandako, maybe a pumper junamla said, Tombani tobe sirab the ponguiora. Some Rawa, church somewhere Rawa and Giora. The Tombani to in a quote in the Rayumato, some Rawa to one bata, or Tende Umardo, not Tombani sober, Tobena, and then I shook some Tende Umarwa. Oh, they do Yamdo, Tombani tobe sirab the Pumba give a concert in Namla. 동반이 코와 코치기 뒤 싸워 이네 당진디 쇼베치도 동반이 때네 대다 코에 동엘에 때네 치마루 대화를 교체 대화 다게 자오냠도 니지 전부 공부를 해서 되셔도 코에 동에다 때나 치마루 세다데 때나세 대화데 다게 자오세 tambote tena chimaru se malam temgerishira tena chimaru tawar show serse ane tawar tena chimaru tawar kurchi ser ni tawar taga chao se shende kurchi wate yugudwa shende tonda kurchi ngara rang chigi sete yungara o tawar taga chao se tekba chimbu lambi tube chambada nyingji chimbu chenyi yongsu da tekjingi Chambada Niji Chimbu Chenyi also saw what the Sawana Sigurda. Take by Chimbu Lamgi Tibes, Lambi and Gesigura. Many Tawa Tamjeda, Dembata, Tunga Tamjeda, Tawa Yanda was over Sanjela, Gobara, Dukobainus. Oh, they Chaju Semkidusa, Simja Tamjero, and Yerichi Megi, Kawamegi. Tungegi, Tada Litoa. 대외 소 탐제를 부수서 보통게 대화 탈심바 동해대 대화 탈심바 미시베 몽골에 소바 그 탐제세 연대 탐제 탈심베 사제지 고바토버샤 아삼 자주초도 셈께거라 동해다 동해 탐제 다 대외 양다보 소베 사제지 고발라 고데바 고바이노서 오 자주 셈문에 생이 상황 깨와라 근데 그거에 소고다
So here, dealing with the line that really this comes in the 4th line in the English translation I'm using that says, who are destitute because of having focus, or really due to their objectifying or grasping at things as having some kind of a self, then they bring about their ruin, we could say. And so here we are wishing to be able to liberate all sentient beings from suffering. That really we are making this kind of prayer to be able to show emptiness to sentient beings that are, we could say, destitute in cyclic existence due to this kind of objectifying, this grasping at true existence, grasping at phenomena as being truly existent. And one wants to be able to pacify that root of their samsaric suffering. And so here it's then expressed in imagine these, how wonderful would it be if all sentient beings were free from the sufferings of cyclic existence? May they be free from that suffering, and then may I free them from that suffering. So when we meditate on a great compassion, for example, we make it as first a sort of admiration. The first is kind of an aspiration, and then there's sort of more a wish for that, like may that come about. And then in the third, we really take that on ourselves. I myself, may I free them from that suffering. And so here, when it comes to the definition of the kind of great love and compassion that are contained in the Mahayana path, one needs to wish to place sentient beings in the state of complete enlightenment that is endowed with all happiness and which is free from all suffering. So here, for it to be part of this love and great love and compassion on of the Mahayana, then it needs to encompass all sentient beings without any kind of partiality, any sort of preference for one over the other. And it needs to be one in which it is completely free, wishing to place them in a state of complete enlightenment, which is free of all suffering completely, such that it will never return, and is endowed with all happiness, this complete unchanging happiness, which really is perfect, complete enlightenment.
Oh yeah. The word teach to Donna sata da su tuni shek do tongbani kole. Donna se shinela tene nelu jite kumbar chate se ta tingi che be kone se gora semtile yani patsu mabo che semtche tongbani to da samluta ruba samluta o ne tene rama ta me samtigal semne batel shine kom se gora cheba che de la tong se gora chidan lao se men ka sura ta ya de shirab ji cha tongbani le soba te zul cheba che ge te shirab kila lao se ta lao tong ne te maro lao tong ne shine top sang te lao tong se gora te cheba che ne tonda te gala sem ne be nebe cha de le shine se gora tingi se gora tingi de shirab tonda sangmal samrutan de o te ko gora so samrutan de shirab de ta che tonda se sem le char Charles de Golia something natural. Chegum se do tele chegum se tira. Chebache tayo ma ye chebache te ma mo te ne do sam tongbani sam ko so te gol sem ne je te ora. Yang go ne sam lu ta ji chebache te ma ta na rang ne tongbare do sam ya te gol sem ne je sha ora. O te ne chen ko mu de so ora. Oh, dona shinela tene nelu jita kombar kombate ese ngao nyambe ngane se nga samsa ke ngade namju nganzu samlu tandu nga se rawa dabchi lu da choa da dushi da tezu da dawashi da mengere tezu luang jo gen dabchi yewe suri samlu ko do o tende de mendu sam ko ta tunda ngao nyambe ngane pumbula takwa samdo shakbar se ke ese pumbunga la tene pa le pa takwa te samla nga se shagore ese ra ne pumbu te zo chawa che te ne nga chawa che ba shagore tene takwa samla chachi runga ase ma to takwe te de tsega do ne rae yo ma re ese rangwe ne tongpa re ese te she yo ra rangshin ki ka se dona shinela tene nelu jita kombar chate ese kombar chate te ngao nyabe ngane pumbula takwa samdo shakbar seji so te samjile nga shagor mato namju nganju sambana shingi tende ta chi o marta se gara seji se rangshin je truba da rang chenye je truba rangshin je truba se shenda mainge tende so che me go bare ko da rangshin je kora rangshin je nga rang je se shenda ya te shen del me go ge sam ko da ne rangshin je truba da rang chenye je truba da Rangwe to lose to ba chongseja maybe Kansage Yobano Kansa Yu said the Ta Yu said and I Yu said in this order Mingi Tanya Shakwa Samdar Pumbunga la Tenepa Mingta the Shakwa Samre Tanya Yuang Shakwa Samre but you Koran when the Sutu Mara 아니 따내 여봐 따내 여봐다 뜨내 여배 주 코너세베 로다 민기 봐 따내 여봐 풍부가 올라 때네 봐 따내 여봐 요 따내 여봐다 아니 뜨베 주기 여봐 풍부가 올라 뜨진 된내 여봐 코라 랑와치 매봐 주기 여봐 코너세베 랑시 매도 냠도 일라 차오세 대신도 다다 천년이 다그 류랑신지 매서로 아니 소랑신지 매 다랑신지 매 티랑신지 시령이 뭐나 빠져고도 소메타메테메세 랑신지 동반나 보야도 버쳐서 또세 아니 소 동바오세 아니 소메타메세 요고도 어때네 시삼을 땅 그랬어도 대신도 풍불라서 뭐쳐 탐절라야 자네 공부하자오세 대신도 수다
So here, this is from Gyaltsabje's commentary. In short, one should meditate on the mode of abiding in dependence on calm abiding. So here, when it comes to independence upon having achieved calm abiding, or that kind of faculty of meditative stabilization, wherein you have single-pointed focus. So here, there is that kind of analytical, investigative kind of meditation. And then when we come to a sort of certainty, we place the mind on that in this mode of calm abiding. Now, here, even if we're not engaged in actual special insight, we give this the name special insight. When we engage in this kind of investigation about the mode of abiding. And so here, it continues saying then further, because the I of the thought I is established as merely labeled independence on the aggregates and does not exist inherently, it does not exist intrinsically. So here, this is, again, this is the sort of a method that we use for anything. Here in the context of thinking about selflessness or emptiness, but we also use this in any sort of contemplation that we do. We contemplate on that topic and then place the mind on that understanding that we have come to in a kind of unmoving, unwavering way. And so here we should come to an understanding that the I, like there's an I that appears in our mind. And here we need to investigate, does it actually exist in the way that it appears? So here we normally have this thought of I that exists somehow like unconnected from our aggregates. It's not really our body or our feelings or our mind or our discernments and so forth, but somehow in control of them. It's like the owner or the master of those things. But yet, if we investigate this analytically, we can see that there's no way that there can be an I separate and apart from the aggregates. It's only when our aggregates do something that we can say, oh, I did that. But when we try to search for such a self existing within those, such an I as it appears to us, we can't actually find it. It's something that is merely labeled independence on the aggregates and does not exist inherently. It is it does not exist intrinsically. It is not established in the slightest in an independent mode. Therefore, the existent person is merely posited in name. And so here, when we think about that, that's the extent of its existence. We can say that this I exists, it appears to us to have that kind of intrinsic existence or independent existence. But yet when we investigate, we can see that there is nothing that is not dependently originated. All of these are dependent contingent. So here we should take this to heart, that it does not exist inherently, and meditate the same way on all phenomena such as the aggregates and so forth. Like it says in the Heart Sutra, where we're listing out like there are no feeling, no form, no feelings, no and so forth, no eyes, no ears, no nose. And think about each of these in this way.
tos kaso locho saba chingi sol 때는 가서를 고대 시에도 때 마부식 때봐 모두 취시대 되고 취시대 간대임에 대하고 그라 또 소대 때에도 안돼 준주난 시에서대 장주sem다 동반인인데 시기어라 기부 충우시에도 이내 심지어를 처방의 템퍼처번에 용도 대치조난 시기어라 심지어스도 가나 주님도 대도 용구라 대처방에다 템퍼처에 가서 주님도 대타지면 저와요부터 주 용구마도 다른 분에게도 좀 아주 저하게 요마라 템퍼처에 내가 개체 요마라 세팅 아주 하고 그도 담보다가 심지어 쫓아르지도 기분 정시에도 차단식도 아니라 차단시에만 시기도 심지어 참마 치부다고 그랬어 가셔 리아가지 가셨던 것이 메인에 강그 치부랬어 대원들을 동해 면도 참마 치부랬어 이런 시에도 하고 말했어 타르바토 걸려 뜻이도 차단소 가야 된다 대바치 며칠에도 들려자 다음에 생체 버지 심지어 탐절이 개바치요 말아 이런 시에도 텐데치요 말아 다음에 시대원들을 동해 면도 치부에 못 삼단 시에도 된다 심지어 때 백개시 보여 방아주 아고도 아주 남주때 그잖아 용구도 나랑도 집에도 그래요 말에 심지어 단도도 나도 도래 콘소 가르쳐야 알았음 진짜 딸이 아직 야시 스타일 맞다 지소나 많다야 돼요 말아 되게 말아 저 신변 코란즈 동에 나오셔지를 가신 가지고 껴가래서 단도체 대어라 카체게 메신스 대어라 냥대거라 이나 시거라 결에 때는 가지고야 가지고 콘솔 잠바다 얘기 겁나 대부분 가지고 배야 보인 거지 진주나고도 심전남도 겨울에 산제 추좀 잡아라 개라 꾸지 대신에 심전남에 지스 산제가 럽쳐서네 진행신 예는 가지고 야도 거라 럽쳐 가르스 심전이한테 저와지도 텐데 지스 심전 쪼차시 송도 김어들 럽치면도 산제 가서 심전남도 겨울 산제 추도다 개라 꾸지 대신도 심전남에 지스서 심전을 그게 동나체 지금도 가르쳐야 서라 개체시도 심전에 따다나도 연구도 하시라 좋아 이 산제게 손남게 사고 신들에 산제도 심전이 송도 하시라 그 산제도 단다고 그랬어야 돼 연대기 전에 쓰기 말으셔라 연대기 전에 메시지 주는거다 가르스는 데뷔 전에 소소 집었다 얘네 콘솔 통샤야 왔다 소소는 데뷔때 산제도 집었대 배 가서 단던 거에 라고 해오때 조치시를 알아 데뷔때 집어 연구돼서 타르와토나다 탐제침바토나다 건돌함비토나다 때내 연구도 어디도 가서 그래 산제게 송도 산제를 쳐봐 피우가 주시부치라 사회 통해서 야부대로 쓰는 초사그라 최병원에도 가르쳤는데 심전남라 템베촌에 따라 쳐줘야지 심전남라 내베촌에 따라 내줘야지 다다 심전남네 대다 동에 손도베스 대두냠용에서 오라 강시 심전 내지 되는 따라 지대로 그요세 그쇼 가르친 지고래 송도 어디로 가서는 아주 뒤지도 날 대디사 쳐들려고 뒤디 계심부시오래서 삼서 삼고도 데데 아주 삼로 또나메 제테니 교용거라 어디도 데데 어디저네 저저도 전주나도네 그디이나 콘도다 심바메지바시 대상어도 마타서도 찔라바냐 다게네 가웨이니 투메차서로 아 딜레 저 콘도데 용거도 콘도데 니미데 망을 용거도 어디도 가서 지존나 소소 낭미나 가리나다 템부체 대고 위에나 최 당보데 낭미는 고추 송거도 본인들네 제 안에 소소 저 여기들네 제 안에 봐자죠 간주 때야면 심지어 탐지에서 심지어 탐지 가와요나 가시 잠불에 현대에서 지는 말다 기대에 와서 때wan데나 그 상으로 찍거도 기능에서 가서라 기대 연계되는 고추 그 같아 예전부터 어떻게 소소 기본 연구하라 티체나 기대 연계되다 tum부체 대시도 감각적이지 편집식실 수어체 직식 갈소래 대외 규례진도도 자 최대 저대 소소 메시지 기부체게 했던다라 찔러버게 다그네 가게니 중매자스 개배 동에 중요한 선비랍만 영매자스 당보들의 소소 대워제 메시드 야구체 계고라 기부체 해던다 벤조던 지체세도 그 거다 거를 탑시 채우라 셔보제 감라체제 마주나 아니 단리 마소 삼소소소 심레체 된데 지겨 말서 거라 탑시체 가 전에 정한데 르르 초시자 르르 르르 삼자 다들 마도 된데만 소소소소 벤조사에 대때 된다 르르데 제서디자 동에 자정하냐 이제 제마한테 르부데 롱조에서 배티데 배 동에 진냐고는 가버려도 뒤선다 수수 메시드야 뭐지 납제 가르데 도스나 메시드야 뭐지 남미네 저데 대부기부 제제 대제가 야부치 메시게 단다 락도 메시게는 락고다 지소나 삼을 단다 락고래 대체는 센델레 대화 연구를 센델레 대화가 내가 제소나 지네 체만나 미팅 대부 연구에서 뒤송구도 대가 좋아 하고도 대체는 가서래 주주 싫어留下지 진짜 야구 내대 나에게 지시해가지 그래서 가게 깨봐서 무청소 대야버시대 좀 어떠신 정말 야 근데 그래 뒤주저도 단체 보셔야도 같아나
So here we have now finished this guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life by Shantideva. And here I have given kind of a lot in terms of the introductory subject matter. And this is thinking about there being some of us who are new students. And this is something that I just think is so important to understand the context of Dharma and why we are practicing all of this. All of this kind of advice that we get within the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life is really for enacting in our life, and that begins by the least sort of level of that is committing to not harming others and trying to benefit them. Right? We can't really benefit. First of all, this involves interacting with other sentient beings. This is advice. This is how we live our life in society, right? And it begins with those who are directly around us. We aren't like harming or benefit those that we are unconnected to or that we can't actually physically reach, that we can't reach. But we need to begin with the people around us, treating them well, not harming them, but striving to benefit them. And going beyond that, we see that really having this attitude of being close to some and distant to others, having attachment to some and animosity toward others, is really inappropriate in that we have equally, all of us, every single sentient being, the desire to be happy and the desire not to suffer. And there's absolutely no difference between us. And really, that we are only able to get rid of our animosity, get rid of our attachment in relation to other sentient beings. And so we should see sentient beings as valuable, even if we are only pursuing gaining a higher rebirth, if we are only pursuing our own liberation, we should see them as being important. This is the basis upon which we can achieve any of the levels of goals that we might want to achieve. And it's not okay for us to, often in the text we talk about like lower rebirths and those who are born as animals and so forth, but we shouldn't like look down upon them. In some sense, yes, they are in a poorer position than we are, but they're not lesser than us in the sense that they are equal in valuing their life. They are equal in wanting to have happiness and not wanting to suffer. And so we shouldn't be sort of dismissive of sentient beings who are in particular situations, but rather we should see them all as equal and on that basis really value and cherish them. And so here, in terms of attaining Buddhahood, both sentient beings and Buddhas are equal, but yet it seems that we lack respect for sentient beings while we have great veneration and respect for the Buddha. So here, this is also from Shantideva, and he really is emphasizing that we should see sentient beings as like the Buddha, not as equal in terms of their qualities, but rather as equal in terms of being a field for us to be able to achieve our goals. There's no way that we can achieve any level of either a good rebirth or liberation or the state of Buddhahood without depending upon other sentient beings. And so here there is another verse in which the Buddha has said, we give lots of offerings to the Buddha, right? We extend all kinds of offerings, we lay them out. But the Buddha has said, the best offering to me is benefiting sentient beings, and the worst harm to me is harming sentient beings. How could you say you have respect for me while you hurt other sentient beings? So here, this is really important that we gain that kind of respect for others that really translates into how we interact with them. As we have learned earlier in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, we should really strive to never let our afflictions take over, particularly like our anger. There are certain verses where it talks about no matter what might happen, I'm not going to succumb to the enemy of my afflictions. When we are in society and we want to live in a state of harmony with others, it really starts with those around us, and having the capacity to be patient rather than give in to our anger is something that is extremely important. So we should never sort of bow down to our afflictions, but rather this is the time in which we should stand up to them. And here, again, it begins with those that we interact with on a daily basis, those in our families, those in our neighborhoods, those that we work with, and so forth. Because otherwise we can say like all sentient beings, and it seems like that might be a big collection of beings in some other universe or something. And yet we don't think about the ones that are right in front of us. So when we talk about helping others, benefiting others, having love for others, we should recognize that this is the real cause of happiness. Our happiness and theirs is when we act in ways that are respectful and kind to other sentient beings. So here, as Shantideva has said earlier, whatever comes, let my mind not be disturbed. Whenever we have good things come, we shouldn't get so overly joyed about them. Neither should we get upset and anxious, but rather recognize that we will, by implementing the Dharma in those situations, be able to, again, have happiness in this life as well as happiness in future lives. So I would just like to say that I'm very impressed with everyone's attention during this wisdom chapter. I feel like it has been very fortunate to have this opportunity to explain this and for you all to have this teaching.
We have this one. We have two.
Oh yeah. Oh, that didn't understand. Oh, did you learn something? Juju na ta ye ge sebe liu le ne ji den chue jie de ma bu yong de di na le dong ye xie zhou de ji den chue jie ma go nyam gu de shi xie de de shi de qian de ji de ne de ge xie bu ji jie su su shi bu ji kan do ye ba de me shi ne su su shi bu ji ne de na zhe shen ba me ji ma bu xie ji de su ya ra ko su su nang me jie ne ge yo ma ra ya su su nam yi me de na me ne ge yo ma ra zhe ba nge ba ka zhe ne ri shi yo ma ra 소소 남전에 제보대 야고치 대비나 이산단 메게 야고레스 가르르네 남메 땅고라 야고레스 야전에 같이 요 말로 가르쳐줘서는 냥가 요런 거고대 냥가 요라 근데 또 지지마 수스는 막 콤체베 근데 미락벌 두겨라 미 야도스는 같이 되지도 소소 감마가데 소소 삼을 매지 미 라말을 두다 근데 냥가 요라 매가게 지지세도 그런 마음에서 당아 지수서 소소소 동에서 카드라는 말을 캐게요 말해서다 또다 작별은 두대 가서래 매도 전에 보충주 삼다 마시는 내시듯이 지메 공부팁스는 부배 체매공부 뛰내시듯이 누가 자고디 동번이 시대데 또는 또게데 티체저 최야가 질라는 소소카를 르는데 말씀도 말 소소네 저는 알고가 라도스는 안 소소도 요라마다 소소소소 지금 소시가라 어디 니나를 내대서 송고도 또네 또게 지에 소소 쇼지 안도에게요 말아 매네 매게 진 소소 두지 만도에게요 말아 소소 강이 버디래대요라 또네 또 매네 매상거라 걔나 지지지 때우도 지지서는 나게 마치 오늘 매르나게만 부여 삼고래서 매네 지지 매르던 것도 내가 떨어나게만 부여서 삼고래서도 저거 텐데 지금 저게 지도 저 단지보다 변조라 말하다 남산 샘 추가 지기요 말아 되게 샘부려도 어야 텐데 신기래 야 텐데서
Tôi muốn nói là trong
So
những
here, I would also just like to emphasize these 8 worldly concerns. This came up in the context of the chapter on patience, as well as here in the chapter on wisdom, on emptiness. And so here, thinking about things like praise and blame, gain and loss, happiness and suffering, sort of good reputation and a bad reputation. Here, we should sort of equalize these out, not let ourselves get so despondent at blame or criticism, or so sort of inflated and arrogant at praise. It's not as though when someone blames you or criticizes you, it makes you worse. If you were behaving badly, you were behaving badly. It doesn't change that. If you were behaving well, it doesn't change that either. Someone's saying so doesn't make it so. And when we are praised, we should also kind of just set that aside, not pay too much attention to it. If we get kind of enthralled by the praise that others give us, we can get deceived by them. We can think, oh, they really like me, and so forth. And so here, becoming so invested in when we are praised or when we are criticized, when we have gain or when we have loss, as it's described in the 6th chapter, it talks about it as being sort of like children when their sand castles fall down. We get so invested in that, but we shouldn't actually look at it in that way. And so we can think about, well, when I'm blamed for something or when I'm criticized, there are others who praise me. And when I'm praised, there are others who criticize me. We should level these out. And this is something very important for us to do in our daily life.
So here we end up our most precious teaching. So the final teaching, first we'll do the mandala offering, and then before that I would like this mandala, after finish the mandala offering, and then we will offer the appreciation cake. Our devotee has arranged appreciation cake, and then we will also read the thank you note for and our 2 wonderful translators, Sigong Yekan and Katrina Brooks, and then we also present small gift for Sigong Yekan and Katrina Brooks. So, and then this teaching we have received we received donation from Tara, so we appreciate for Tara. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. That's it. Page 43, 43, yes, mandala offering.
Shalom Babu Zamole Balanje Jadamene Ledalema Ayanda Ayaje Yandana Lanjonde Damenye Damenye Jeda Remoje Rewo Pazanje Danje Ba Mama Bayelado Kalare Moje Nabore Moje Samore Moje Lamore Moje Lamore Moje Tanjore Moje Mavore Moje Tenje Moje Bama Yenoma Rawama Lema Kama Nadoma Dobama Nazema Jengama Yema Da Rimboje Do Chole Nambaja Janje Oze Ladame Bence Boze Zaba Manzavame Deda Cece Zavan Yema Cebe Pade Lamada Yonci Geye Şenye Cem Gece Yece Tanke Zambo Jangan Teba Cembo Sonce Zamo Leba Töbe Kate Taran Yedi Cengan Bova Cevo Tocence Döndü Jesus Cene Cada Somacen Ange Tadanya Sece Tan Cece Cene Ca Sonyez Yedi Omazo Sanje Cince Landı
Okay, so Tung, okay, first offering, first offer, and then now you have to read the Tara. Okay, you read the English section. So then Tung will read the. So we have thank you speech for from all our devotees. Yeah, so we will, okay, everybody finish? Yeah. Okay, everybody settle down. Okay, so, okay, so now we have the, okay, first, okay. So we have, first we have a thank you, appreciation and thank you notes for Gerimbache and our two interpreter and one in English. So Tara will be read that in English and Tung will read in Vietnamese. After that, then we will offer the thank you cake to Gerimbache. Okay? Yeah.
Most respected and beloved Guru Gen Rinpoche, all Sangha members, our two wonderful translators, and our devoted practitioners. Most Venerable Gen Rinpoche, we offer our deepest gratitude for bestowing upon us this precious and exceptionally rare teaching. Though you have reached an advanced age, your clarity and sharpness surpass that of most of us gathered here today. Your wisdom shines as brightly as ever, illuminating our path with profound insight. We are deeply grateful for your compassion and dedication in sharing these sacred teachings with us. From the bottom of our hearts, we pray for your long life, continued good health, and the fulfillment of all your wishes. May you continue to guide us on the path from samsara toward liberation for many years to come. We also wish to express our profound gratitude to our two wonderful translators. Most Venerable Sukho Nathan, your brilliance and dedication move us deeply. You traveled all the way from Vietnam, leaving behind important duties, including caring for your ailing master, to be here with us. Your sacrifice and commitment to making these teachings accessible are truly extraordinary. We are immensely grateful and humbly request your continued assistance with future teachings and important translations from High Masters. Katrina Brooks, we are so thankful for your unwavering willingness to support us with these vital translations. Your consistent dedication and skill are deeply appreciated. We cherish your contributions and respectfully request your continued help in the future. To both of you, our heartfelt thanks for serving as bridges between languages and hearts, allowing us to receive these precious teachings. Finally, we wish to express our sincere gratitude to all our devoted practitioners who have attended these precious teachings. Despite your busy schedules and demanding work responsibilities, you made the time and effort to be here. Your commitment to the Dharma and your dedication to spiritual practice are truly inspiring. Thank you for recognizing the rare opportunity these teachings represent and for prioritizing your spiritual journey. Your presence here creates the auspicious conditions for the Dharma to flourish. May all beings benefit from these teachings, and may the merit of this gathering bring peace and enlightenment to all. Thank you. With prayer, Gala Rinpoche and the devotees of Drepung Loseling Institute of Texas.
Kính thưa Thầy Gen Rinpoche tôn quý và rất yêu mến, quý Tăng Ni, hai vị thông dịch tuyệt vời và tất cả Phật tử thân mến. Thưa Ngài Gen Rinpoche, chúng con xin bày tỏ lòng biết ơn sâu sắc nhất đối với Ngài đã ban cho chúng con những lời dạy quý giá và vô cùng hiếm quý này. Mặc dù Ngài đã đến tuổi cao, nhưng sự minh mẫn và sáng suốt của Ngài vẫn còn vượt trội hơn hầu hết chúng con có mặt tại đây ngày hôm nay. Trí tuệ của Ngài vẫn tỏa sáng rực rỡ như xưa, soi đường cho chúng con bằng những hiểu biết sâu sắc. Chúng con thành tâm biết ơn lòng từ bi và sự tận tụy của Ngài trong việc chia sẻ những giáo pháp thiêng liêng này với chúng con. Từ đáy lòng, chúng con cầu nguyện cho Ngài được trường thọ, luôn luôn khỏe mạnh và viên mãn mọi nguyện ước. Cầu mong Ngài tiếp tục dẫn dắt chúng con trên con đường thoát khỏi luân hồi, hướng đến giải thoát trong nhiều năm tới. Chúng con cũng xin bày tỏ lòng biết ơn sâu sắc đến hai vị thông dịch viên tuyệt vời. Thưa sư cô Nhất Hạnh, tài năng và sự tận tụy của cô làm cho chúng con thật sự cảm động. Sư cô đã bay từ Việt Nam, bỏ lại những trách nhiệm quan trọng, bao gồm cả việc chăm sóc thầy của sư cô đang ốm đau, để có mặt ở đây với chúng con. Sự hy sinh và cam kết của sư cô trong việc làm cho những lời dạy này được tiếp cận thật sự phi thường. Chúng con vô cùng biết ơn và kính mong sư cô tiếp tục hỗ trợ cho các buổi giảng dạy và các thông dịch quan trọng từ các vị thầy cao, đức trọng trong tương lai. Thưa cô Katrina Brooks, chúng con thành tâm cảm ơn sự sẵn lòng không ngừng của cô trong việc hỗ trợ chúng con với những thông dịch quan trọng này. Sự tận tâm và tài năng nhất quán của cô được đánh giá cao. Chúng con trân trọng những đóng góp của cô và kính mong sự giúp đỡ tiếp tục của cô trong tương lai. Đối với cả hai vị thông dịch viên, chúng con xin chân thành cảm ơn vì đã là cầu nối giữa các ngôn ngữ và tâm hồn, giúp chúng con tiếp nhận được những giáo pháp quý giá này. Cuối cùng, chúng con xin bày tỏ lòng biết ơn chân thành đến tất cả các hành giả tận tâm đã tham dự những buổi giảng dạy quý giá này. Mặc dù lịch trình bận rộn và công việc đầy áp lực, quý vị vẫn dành thời gian và công sức để có mặt ở nơi đây. Cam kết của quý vị đối với chánh pháp và sự tận tâm làm việc tu tập tâm linh thật sự đáng khâm phục. Cảm ơn quý vị đã nhận ra cơ hội hiếm quý mà những lời dạy này mang lại và đã ưu tiên cho hành trình tâm linh của mình. Sự hiện diện của quý vị tại đây tạo nên những điều kiện tốt lành để chánh pháp được phát triển và trường tồn. Cầu mong tất cả chúng sinh đều được lợi lạc từ những lời dạy này và cầu mong công đức của buổi tụ hội này mang lại bình an và giác ngộ cho tất cả. Xin chân thành cảm ơn Gala Rinpoche và các đệ tử của Dipong Lusling Institute of Texas.
Thank you. Now we have a small talking gifts for graduate because Siko is not accepting any offering from center so far. So we have, I just thought for last 1 month what should offer is this very small, but hopefully this is useful for her teachings activities. So yeah, we wanted to, and also we have a note from all the devotees. So we want to present this for Siko. And then I will personally contact Katina for say thank you. Okay. And then yeah, and Katrina and all English sections, they really appreciated you, and we also really appreciated for you. I know you are working, and then also taking time to translate it as is always. She was when I asked, always she's find a time for us. So thank you. We really appreciate. So everybody really appreciate your teaching, and on online also we see a lot of people view and text me saying that both of translations are excellent and benefit a lot. And as you know, teaching is very rare and precious. Now we have this cake. Thank you, cake for everybody. So okay, we will cut this cake. Yeah, come. Okay. And no, there's 딱딱 초바지 피시 디커서 이온저리 오케이 게는 문제 So we do the open prayer first.
Kính thưa quý vị, theo cái phong tục của dạ, dạ, theo phong tục của người Tây Tạng đó thì cái buổi học cuối mình không có lạy thầy, tại vì mình còn hy vọng là mình còn được gặp lại ngài. Cho nên nếu mình lạy thầy có nghĩa là mình như là không có khá là nhiều cái đó nó không có tốt, thành thử ra là mình không lạy để mà mình cầu mong là được gặp lại ngài, rồi lúc đó mình mới lạy. Yeah.